Hi everyone. This is another session where Brian and I continue productizing a Blazor component that allows people to have infinite scrolling seamlessly, regardless what their data source is. In the last session, we basically started a POC. We modified the broker a little bit, sorry, the base component a little bit, so it can basically kind of abstract away the native virtualization component, and we expose that to a POC component that we basically pass some data to it. But last time, Brian, what happened last time? We couldn't get it to
Yeah,
render. Go ahead.
yeah, we were fiddling around and we were having a bit of trouble, and I was thinking it should work, and you were thinking there were issues with the way I was calling the delegate for the rendering for the render fragment. I should have stuck my ground. I should have stuck my ground.
That's right. So it looks like Brian figured it out. He has something
Yeah,
to show us today. Let's go ahead, Brian, show the people what
yep.
our POC is doing. Go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. I just make sure I'm on the right. Yep. So I'm back on the same branch. You want to share my screen there?
Mm-hmm. As soon as it pops up, I'll add it in. It's not there yet. Are you already sharing?
No, that'd be my fault then. Gee, just grab my screen without me doing anything.
All right, let's do it. All right, there you go. All right, let's make it happen. Mhm.
Mm. So yesterday we were very close. In fact, we were this close. That was it.
Brian, is that it? That's all that it
Yeah.
needed?
Yes.
So explain to people, what does this mean? Why is this important? Let's show them it.
uh,
Let's show it
no,
working first.
yeah. Sorry, I already hit. Yeah, I
Yeah,
already hit
yeah.
run.
This is very exciting. Let's do it. That just another, we're really close. We're really, really close to wrapping up this component. And then we're gonna play around with building some acceptance tests and stuff like that. But let's see. Yeah.
It's the first time I fired Visual Studio this morning, so it's a bit sluggish. So
Okay.
any minute now. And voila, data on the screen that scrolls. Can't get much. There you go. I don't know.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice. And then if you scroll, it goes, or does it just render
yeah.
everything?
No, it's actually well, we can't see the calls because it's actually calling on in memory.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but that is displaying all 50, and I don't know if you remember, we're telling it not to take all 50. So,
Awesome. Awesome.
mm. And
So,
they're
so
all separate divs, and they're basically the template we supplied.
nice.
Um, yeah.
Okay.
um,
So now is the time for us to kind of take that POC and
yep.
productionize it, bring it down
Yes.
to and here's a random thing for the people that are watching us. If you upgraded to Windows 11 and you're having problem with copy paste, Control C, Control V, it's not just you. It's a common thing. I was just talking to Brian about this. And I was like, oh my God, what is going on there? You know that I went and bought a new keyboard. I just going to got a, I like these I like the Microsoft kind of the
Ergonomic.
ergo, yeah,
Yeah.
ergonomic, right? And
Mhm.
I was like, okay, I guess it's time for a new keyboard. Nope, still having the same problem. But
Mhm.
what are you gonna do, right? And we'll just ping a bunch of people and tell them fix your stuff.
Mm.
Anyway, all right. So you have all that stuff in the branch now, right? You have all that.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, so what I did, and what people might not be seeing here is
Mm-hmm.
this child content is actually a render fragment of type T, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
a
So it wants the
and
type. It wants something
yeah,
to be passed to it.
it needs a parameter of T,
Mm-hmm.
and this is the context in which, yeah,
Nice. Nice.
yeah.
So context here would be the data source, not necessarily the type, would it?
No, it's the context coming from the virtualization base in this case.
Okay.
Okay,
And if you hover over context,
and
what's
that
it say?
and that
Uh-huh.
and the context is what the T defines. You get me?
Okay.
Because with the render fragment is type T. Yeah,
Right. Right.
yeah. So whatever's here is the context.
Ah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Okay. You have one change in there. Do you want to push that before I pick it up from my side? It looks like it's on
Yeah,
the.
yeah. It's on the my local branch at the moment, and I'll just push that up with the
Yep.
kit. Um, it's really not important what we call it because we're not going to go live with it.
Yep. Just
Um,
say POC.
yeah.
POC, and that's just render. Uh,
Uh,
uh
yeah.
Yep. Yep.
BT.
All right.
I'll just push that up.
All right. I'll take that on my side, and I'm going to start building the unit tests for this, and that will be the component unit test. And we're going to pull in a really nice fancy library called bUnit. bUnit
Mm.
basically just for people who, have never heard of this. There's this really nice guy. His name is Eagle Hansen. He had the idea one day to just go out there and say, I need to write a test framework for Blazor components. And he went out there. He actually like he's taking on most of that effort on his own, and then the community started kind of rallying around him, which is one of the things that I really love and appreciate about open source community is that, the community started rallying around him, and then, before you know it, it's becoming one of the most popular libraries out there. Surprisingly, though, how I knew about bUnit is that the two people that were leading the effort in Blazor is two people, Daniel Roth and Steve Sanderson, right? Think Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, Daniel Roth and Steve Sanderson. And when I started adapting Blazor really early in the game, I used to contact with these people a lot. I was like, hey, what should I do for test-driven development at the early age, back early 2019, something like that. There wasn't really much resources out there, to actually tell the world what Blazor is, how to test drive Blazor, and all that kind of good stuff. So this guy took a prototype that Steve Sanderson put together, and he turned it into production ready, full blown framework that he called bUnit. He basically built this entire framework. Look how much work went into this, 1,312 commits. He's obviously the highest contributor, one of the highest contributors. A lot of people rallied behind him. This is, as you can see, he is the highest contributor in here. His contributions to this project basically, technically dwarfs anything else. Like C600, 1600. Look at him. He's out
Mm.
there. You know, so this is his changes, the stuff that he pulled in. He started to have sponsorship from so many different large UI companies, like Sync Fusion, Telerik, and Hassan. I don't know
Mm.
who that guy is, and and he's continuing to push that effort. He's very, very active, and he has a lot of passion, and we are going to use his amazing library today to basically test drive. It's such a small world. Like, Steve Sanderson sent me to Eagle. I pulled Eagle's library, and I got to know Brian, and now Brian gets to use Eagle's library to build great software. That's the crazy thing about our world today in terms of networking. These people are spread all over the world. Eagle, I think Eagle is in Finland. I'm sorry, Eagle, if Iceland. He's in Iceland. Sanderson is in England, and Brian is in Australia, and I'm sitting here in Redmond. So it's all over the place. The code is just making rounds around the world, which is really amazing and really
We all
exciting.
speak a common language, but we don't speak a common language. It's kind of weird.
Yes. I like that. We all speak a common language, but we don't speak common language. Anyway, so that's the deal. This is where we're at now. Let's go ahead and use Eagles. If you're watching us, if you go ahead, star his profile. He's a pretty cool guy, and star his bUnit library and start playing with it today. Definitely, it's baked into my engineering standard as one of the supporting technologies and libraries that will help us test drive software as we go. All right. enough with the with the intro for Eagle. Let's go into Brian's branch here, and let's start doing, a little bit of modification there. So I'm gonna go up in here. I'm gonna go to Visual Studio. Okay, so let's see if I can. I'm gonna increase the font here a little bit just so people, because this is where things get interesting. Most of the content that I have online, there's a series called Blazor series, about 15 or 17 hours, where I talk about all of these things, but it's not enough to kind of propagate the idea. How are you test driving an entire library? And I wish I really built a pretty Blazor in a recorded sessions so people can actually see what it does and all that kind of stuff. But the best thing about Pretty Blazor is that it got someone amazing like Brian to reach out to me and say, "Hey, you can make this library better." That's the first time you talked to me. Remember that? You saw
Yeah,
Pretty
yes.
Blazor, and he said to me, "Hey, I like that idea. What do you think about
Actually,
making it
the
nice?"
first comment I made to you was I was watching you do some migrations and you were struggling with a migration name, and I sent you a little cheeky comment.
Yes,
I know
yes, yes.
that.
That's right. That's right. All right. Okay. I'm gonna pull down your branch. So let me sync up in here with the with all the branches. And let's see what we can do here, Brian, in terms of kind of productionize. We're gonna do a little bit of cleaning up. We're gonna go back and forth and do some stuff. We're gonna have some fun today. All right. So here's the deal. Let me go and find in your branch. It's Brian Parker. So the beautiful thing is that I can actually filter. That's Brian.
Yeah,
And
that's my
then,
fault.
oh, did you forget to put the L in one of
On the
those?
very first branch, yes. Yeah. See?
Okay. Okay. That's fine. That's fine. Every time I see Brian Parker, who I think of? Peter Parker from Spider-Man.
Yes,
Is that a good
yes.
thing or a bad thing? I hope that's a good
I,
thing.
I used to work with David Walker,
Oh, really?
the Phantom.
No, really?
So-
Okay, okay. Okay, so is it this one, CodeRub base delegates? Is that the one? I think that's the
yes.
one.
Yep.
Okay, let's go and see. So under components, we have this B virtualization component. We gonna basically revamp that a little bit so we can help
Mhm.
people kind of understand what we're doing. So here's the deal. We need to create a bunch of things for any component. Any component could have one of three states at a read time.
Mhm.
A read component could have three states. It could be loading, content, or error. Loading,
Yep.
content, or error. So I'm gonna go up in here in the models, and I'm go up in the. I'm gonna build in here a new folder. I'm gonna call this the bVirtualization components. So these are models specific to that, and then I'm gonna go down here and create a really simple thing in here that we're gonna call B virtualization component state. And this state, my buddy Josh McCall taught me this one. He basically, he worked with a bunch of really cool people, and he basically one of the things that they were doing, they weren't even like Blazor engineers. Like a lot of this is more like UI, than
Mhm.
anything else. He said anything can be loading content or error. There's nothing
Mhm.
else that can be out there. Of course, as I'm progressing and learning about things, I realize that there's a little bit more states than this, but these are the most common denominator. These are the most common states that you can have in a component like this. So that's great. So we have this in here. I'm gonna go down here into this component, and I'm gonna start doing some stuff. I'm gonna go up in here and say, okay, we have these parameters. That's the data source and all that kind of stuff. This is all great. But in addition to that, I'm going to go up in here and say bVirtualization component state. So that's my state right here. So that's the state. And I also want something else. I want to be able to display some sort of an error message, right? I want to be able to go and say, okay, in addition to this bVirtualization component state, I'm going to go down here and say, give me under exceptions. I'm gonna go and say, give me a bVirtualization component, bVirtualization component exception. So something very specific to this guy.
Mhm.
Is public I'm going to go up in here and say inherit from exception. And then I'm going to go down here and say, okay, this is your exception. This is all your stuff. Here's a CTOR. Give me an inner exception. And then I'm going to go up here and say, okay, here's your base. And this guy will be a bVirtualization error occurred. Please try again. And I'm going to pass in the inner exception in here. Okay, so this is the exception that I'm trying to pass in here. This is all good and dandy. Perfect. Now I'm going to just clean up some stuff. Control KE. And let's go back into the component itself. And I'm going to go up in here and say property, bVirtualization component, bVirtualization component exception. That's my exception. Actually, since we're actually doing just a kind of an error thing, I'm gonna do this rather here. I'm gonna change this really shortly. I'm gonna go and say, okay, give me an error message like this. So that's a getter and a setter. And then we need a new base component to push into this, Brian. And I'm going to let you do that base component because I did the base component in the previous one. I want that to go into your contributions, your get file profile. So switch over to you. You're going to create a very simple component, the simplest component in the world, but it's very important for us. We're going to create a label base component. So I'm going to hold off. I'm not going to build anything in here yet. I'm just going to go switch over to you, create a new branch, and call that branch base-label. So base-label, go for it. Here you are.
Yep. Sorry, I moved you to the center screen because people complain to me that I'm looking sideways all the time and not at the camera.
Yeah. we'll fix. Are you, by the way, are you on a laptop or a PC, actual desktop PC?
Actually, I'm on a PC, but it's one of those mini Nooks called a Hayes Kenyon. It's an Intel.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay, let's go. Let's do it.
New branch.
Yes. Open up a new branch here.
So we're currently on this branch. Do I pull from this branch?
No. Go back to master. This is something completely separate. Yep.
Yep. So what do you want to call? So this would be foundation.
So bases, yep. And then dash, all lowercase.
Yep.
Bases, and then dash, and then label.
Yep. That it?
Yep. Great. Go for it. Okay.
Yep.
And then really all what we want to do is that we want to create a new base component. Let's call it label base.
Yep.
Okay. And then let's go there. And it's just the native label. So just do label and then inside of it pass in value. That's all. So delete all of that. Just do a tag that's called label.
Sorry,
just nice. Yep. Show off.
Yep.
And then just add value in there. That's all that it is. Okay, now on the back end, we just need to pass in a parameter that says value.
Yep.
And then
no point having a label unless you're forcing the value there, I guess.
Right. That's right. But we probably we might want to allow that sometimes. Let them decide that. Or would it be okay if we passed in a value that's null?
Yeah, even this will let it go. It'll just give give them a warning, I believe. It's
Okay, okay,
So it's only a, yeah.
okay. So
But
there's a
anyhow,
yeah,
yeah, well, yeah,
there's a couple of
yeah.
other functionality that we want to add in there. This is just for our testing. It's going to be really important for us to help us kind of do this. The first thing I want to do is I want to go and say set label. Set label. We want to be able to go and say I want to set a particular label in there.
Mhm.
And should we call it set value? Let's say set value instead because you already have the label on the
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. So
Which
this
is,
is uh, uh, uh,
yeah.
okay. So that's the first one, set label, and this set label guy or set value guy will basically just say this value, and then you pass in the value to it. Yep.
Yep. Did you? I just want to know if you wanted to throw that first to set up testing, or
No, no, it's a base. It's like a
there you go.
broker. We don't care.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay, and then on the next line of this, just type this invoke async. And
Yep.
then just inside that guy, just pass in work item as an input parameter label or alias. Just type work item and then colon and then just say state has changed.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yep, that's it. That's it. And then yep, that's it.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
all that it is.
Is this required? I'm finding
Yeah,
more. I'm finding less and less that this is required. But yeah, when
this
I
is
first started,
uh,
yeah, when I first started with Blazor, it was always you nearly always had to call it. But yeah, it's less and less.
this
And,
is only useful when we're doing test-driven development because it basically kind of you're running in phantom mode. There's no real page loaded, right?
mhm.
But we will try to get rid of it. I mean, things change in Blazor, and we're running on .NET 6, so it's very likely that this is not needed anymore.
Mhm.
I am also not very psyched about the idea that I'm calling an asynchronous function within a void, and I'm not awaiting it. So that's another thing. But we'll come back to this piece. This is not a big deal. Now, that's it. Now you can just create a PR and just call it base, and then label. That's it.
Yep.
We're gonna need
Oy.
we're gonna need that guy so we can basically do the bases.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
just the all uppercase base or
Yep.
bases. Either way is fine. Yep, and then
Yep.
yep, and then just label. That's it.
I always. Why do I get two? Oh,
I'm
I
telling
got a
you, this
lazy.
Windows 11 thing is doing weird stuff, man.
No, I got a lazy finger this morning. It's not lifting.
All right, push that out there, create the PR, and let's get it merged in before anything.
Oops.
Mm.
Uh,
I lost Brian. He lost the connection. He'll come back in a second. I will share my screen here for classic thing. I did exactly the same thing when I was doing a session with the Entity Framework team. It happens all the time. So, all right. So here is the. Let me see if Brian already pushed this in there. Let's see if I can. Yeah, he already created. Here's Brian. Let's see here if I can. Let's go to bVirtualization. Pull requests. Okay, we have it right here. All right, I have the changes here. Just take a quick look at the changes. And I think we should be in good state there. Hi, Brian.
Hi. Maybe I should. Maybe I shouldn't have closed all those other tabs.
I did I did exactly the same thing. I was just telling people I did exactly the same thing in a live session. There's a
Hmm.
whole bunch of people,
Yep.
like thousands of people watching us. I was with the Entity Framework team and we were talking about OData and all that. And in the middle of the conversation, blip, I said, "What is this tab? We don't need it."
Yeah, I thought, let's not confuse the users. Close all those other tabs, and, and I went, oh dear.
For the people who are maintaining StreamYard, and I hope they're watching and listening, or someone would communicate that to them. Please consider having a message that pops up and that says, "Are you sure you're in the middle of some, when you're editing a form and you're trying to exit that form and it says, 'Are you sure you want to exit?' and all that." That'd be nice, right? And anyways, let's take a look at the. I was just
So
telling people. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I created a book. I did create. I'm not sure what I got done. I sort of got flustered
Yeah,
because I got lost. Yeah. So I got the
you
pull
made it.
request done. Yeah.
Yep, yep. You made it happen. You made it happen. Here it is. So let me join that in. That would throw an easy 5 pointer there in your profile. I think like also Shri upgraded everything to the .NET version and trigger branch name. I'm gonna have to take a look at that one later. Oh, she upgraded the .NET version for RC, and she's making an action build. Okay, okay, Shri. She's giving us the air support we need in terms of infrastructure and all that kind of stuff. Beautiful human being. She's amazing. The work that she does
Yeah.
is mind
I
blowing. Yeah,
spoke to her the first time this morning. She's a lovely person. She really is.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
what
She
she's trying
really,
to achieve, really, yeah, that's really interesting. So,
yeah, yeah. Okay, so here we go. Let me go back to um the Visual Studio here.
mhm.
And then let's see. So far I have I'm gonna go here and say whip and then merging with master. So I'm just putting a commit here that says, hold on a second, let me merge with master. And then I'm gonna go down here and say, here we go, get pull origin main, I think. We're on the main branch. It's gonna take me a while to get used to that one. Okay, reload. We have conflict. Let's see what happened. So the bVirtualization itself has conflict. Let me see what the conflict is. The conflict here is, oh, this is the examples that you have, the client server, and then Shri
Mm,
also went in and she added the build stuff. I think
mhm,
it's I think it's pretty okay. There's no conflict. It's already figured it out. Just wants to know that I'm okay with it. So okay,
mm.
so there's all that in there, and then I'm gonna go up in here and say, merge master. So this is done. Now can I pull again, pull origin? It should be done now because I already pulled everything. Yeah, already up to date. Okay, so now I should be able to see I should be able to see your base component here somewhere. Let's see. Base label. There it is. That's what I was looking for. Thank you for putting this together. Let's go into the virtualization component here, which is this guy. Okay, so error message, and then the last thing here, I just want label base. It's my label base. I'm just gonna call it label, done and done, no problem there. This is how I'm gonna render, the view and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so far so good. And then in here you have this retrieve data, which is basically the function. So in addition to all of this, we basically still wanna inject the prop I virtualization service, this guy here. And in this library here, I think the instantiation of this virtualization service is going to be interesting. We're going to initialize it within the service itself, but we still want to get the benefit of injection and all that kind of stuff.
See, our
Okay.
virtualization service is a generic service.
Yes, it needs a T, that's right. Like this.
Mm. So how's it going to know how to inject that?
How to inject that? That's the tricky part. I'm
That's why
guessing,
I that's why I resorted to a factory, and then you ask the factory to create it.
yeah, yeah. I want to be able to kind of mock it and take control of, what it's doing behind the scenes because I don't really
Mm,
care for it actually working and doing the work behind the scenes. I want to be able to just go and say, hey, here's the data source, take that in. And I wonder, how did we do the, let's go back to the implementation here real quick. So, oh yeah, we took the data source broker. So two things need to be instantiated for this one.
mm,
Two things need to be instantiated for this one. The first one would be the data source broker, and then the second thing would be we need to instantiate the virtualization service. And how does the data source broker gets instantiated? Do we pass in the actual data source to it as an input parameter? I would assume so. Let's see. So go to implementation here. Yeah, so this guy takes in the data source. So some other layer at the very top is gonna need to take control of that component. So we're gonna kind of create an Uber component that basically does all of these instantiations for us. I have a
mm,
plan, no worries. Okay, so let's see what I can do here. So this is my guy. I'm gonna go back here for a second. Oop. See, everything, all my keyboard. Look. It's crazy, man. I don't know if I'm pretty sure it's Windows 11 doing this to me. I'm very sure this is happening like that. So anyway, so okay, I have the virtualization service. I have the virtualization component state, error message, and label, right? I think I have all what I need, and I don't think at this level you even need to inject the data source anymore. So I'm gonna take this guy out like this because at this level you really don't. Not at this level, at least. Okay, so there's this guy, and I'm gonna keep this guy intact, but I'm just gonna go here and say throw not implemented exception or something like that. Throw new not implemented exception, like this. Okay, so I have this retrieve data source. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, I'm gonna go and start writing a test in here. So here's our virtualization. I don't think also we need those anymore, Brian. So I'm gonna get rid of these guys. I'm gonna branch out of this guy. Let's go here, new
mm.
branch, and I'm gonna say users. Has actually you started it. So Brian L. Parker, and then I'm gonna go here and say components dot b virtualization. Okay. All right. Now let me go ahead and delete the client and server and all that. We don't need these things. So all of this goes out, out, out. And client WASM out. Okay, now I have the test, the infrastructure. Shri already put the infrastructure for us. This is beautiful. So now let's go ahead and build in under components in here. So this is components, views actually. And then under views, we have components. And under components, there's the bVirtualization component, which is this guy. B, B virtualizations. See, now I'm starting to do it with the S. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate the influence. That's pretty cool. Virtualization. Okay, and I'm gonna go here and say, let me put the let me put the V virtualization component tests. So that's our core thing. There is public, and now here comes the fun part. I'm gonna go and install Eagle Hansen's his library B unit. So I'm gonna go up in here and say B unit. Here it is. Wow, look, he's already inching towards a million. Yeah, half a
Mm.
million, almost there. Okay, so let's do this.
People are seeing the light.
Yes, yes. Okay, so he has this test context idea, and then here is my initialization. Private, read only, mock. I'm mocking my service in here. So this, oh my lord, see? It's doing it again. It's doing it again. Look at this.
Mm.
By the way, it's only doing that on the test, projects template. It's not doing it everywhere, just FYI. So I was working with Mehdi yesterday, some guy helping me with this social media platform, and it didn't do that on the ASP.NET, service. So I don't know what to say, man. It's we're in a little bit of a problem here. bVirtualization service. So here you go. Oh my God. Well, my engineering experience just got ruined. What do you think about that?
This was
Uh,
happening to me yesterday.
yeah, virtualization service mock. And I was in my head, I was like, why is he not doing it right? Well, today I get
Oh,
to know why.
yeah. I was in my head going, why the hell isn't this working?
All right. So here's my mock. This is bVirtualization service mock equal new. Here's the mock right here. So we got that in. And then I can now go here and say this dot services dot add, and then I can go here and say services. Let's see, service should be add transient. I still need, okay, add a transient. There you go. And can I add in, yeah, virtualization service with object, and this guy will take in a the this dot virtualization service mock dot object like this. There you go. And I think this guy goes like this, service like this. There you go. So that's the first piece. The second piece here is to go, yeah, of course it says I don't need that because fine. All right, so that's, I'll just do it like this. That's good enough for me. And
Sometimes I leave them in there just to make it clearer exactly what it is. But yeah, where
okay,
the what how you know how it went dim there on you, saying that you don't need it. It's the only reason I leave it in there is
I
just
think
to make
I think it's configurable, right? Is
yeah.
it? Let's keep it in there, Brian, just for funsies. I
Yeah.
think I agree with you. See, I can't even select anything. The keys are messed up big time. Okay, so here you go. So I'm gonna leave that in there, and then I'm gonna go up in here and say, okay, I need what do I need? I'm not using anything like Sync Fusion or anything, so I don't think I need anything in here for that extent. I think we should be good here. I think we should be good here. And of course it copied, it did a huge miss with the keys. Yikes. I swear to God, I'm just gonna roll back to I'm gonna roll back to Visual Studio 2019. Just call it. And I'll be like, screw it. Screw it. I don't care. I don't care for this. Okay. Okay. Um, let's see here if I can go real quick and do this. I'm gonna go and create a new test in here. And this new test is gonna be very similar to this one. So this is partial. But in here, I'm gonna go and say test.render. So remember how we used to do logic and exceptions and all that? This guy here is render. And this guy here tests a bunch of things. I'm gonna take this inheritance out like this. And I'm gonna go here and basically say I don't need the instantiation in here, so I'm gonna take this out. And basically, I'm gonna go and say let's do a fact in here. Here you go. Oh my God, man, this is really frustrating. And then and here's this guy like this. So this is all good. And this guy needs to be partialized because we partialized the other one. And then I'm gonna go here, just say public void should initialize component. That's all. So this is the initial state for the component. There's few things that I really care about in here that need to happen, right? So the first thing here, I need my state to be in loading state. And we're gonna kind of need to come up with something really fun and fancy. Otherwise, we're gonna have to let people kind of tell us, what we're gonna need to let people kind of tell us what kind of loading component they want to pass in, right?
Mm.
You know that
Like a render.
spinner, the spinner.
Yes. Give them
So
the
that's
opportunity to pass in a render fragment.
exactly. So there will be a render fragment for the error, a render fragment for the spinner, the loading, and another render fragment for the actual content that's coming in. So this way we're giving them all the options they need to kind of build a proper component. And at the same time, we're driving better engineering standard for people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, okay. So what I want here is that I want to go and say, okay, my initial.
Can I ask one more question and maybe
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Go ahead, please.
raise a thought? You said three states. I'm thinking maybe this particular component has four states because we have a refreshing data state.
But can you catch it? Can you catch that
Mm.
refreshing state? What we
Well,
gonna?
it's when the request goes out, and it's while the request is waiting for a response.
Ah, that's that's a very good thought. And how are we gonna test that? Like, how are we gonna? We're gonna need to kind of figure out a way to expose an API
Mm.
either through the base component or through the component itself that says scroll more. We
Mm-hmm.
have to expose a C# API so we can test drive it. I agree with you 100%. We'll see. This is a very fun journey. We'll see how far it
Yeah,
takes
yeah.
us.
It was just an afterthought.
Yeah, yep. Absolutely, absolutely a good thought. Okay. So this is bVirtualization component state, and that's my expected state. And that expected state should be bVirtualization component state dot loading. So that's where I think this is gonna go. And then I'm just gonna initialize the component. So initial bVirtualization component. So this is new bVirtualization component. Usually this test, already passes automatically because it basically says make sure that everything is loaded in its initial state. It doesn't
Mhm.
need anything else. This guy wants a
Two.
some type. So we're gonna give it the type, and then I'm gonna go here and say, well, initial virtualization. Let's go here. Initial bVirtualization component dot state should do we have? I hope we have fluent assertions in here. Of course we do. Should be expected state. Perfect. And then initial virtualization component dot the service should be null. It's already writing
Mhm.
the code. It's fun. It's fun. We're not gonna have jobs. Child content should be null. Initial component dot label should be null. And then initial virtualization component dot error message should be null. I don't think there's anything else in there. I'm gonna do a quick peek in there just to see. So the speak definition. Let's see. Render child component. Error message 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have 5 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, this one should go very straightforward, should without any issues. So I'm just gonna run this test real quick here. Control KE. I'm gonna clean this. Control RT. It will run the test for me. Control RT. Please run the test for me.
Yes, I'll remember that. I'll try.
All right. I don't know if you saw this guy that took the Beatles song. I think it's the Beatles, Let It Be. Was that the Beatles, I think?
Mhm.
And he turned
Yes.
it into Write in C instead of Let It Be. He says when I find my code in tons of trouble, unbugs all that I can see somewhere someone whispers Write in C. So that's fun. All right, so let's see why this guy is not happy. So I got one error here. Let's see what the error is. I think one of those is not really cannot be null by default. Let's see what that is. So this guy basically saying, let's see what its proposition. It's saying initialization service the virtualization not be null. Oh, is it because I injected it, so it won't be null because I injected the service? Interesting. But I didn't load the thing, so let's see.
It should. Yeah.
Yeah, virtualize service. Expect oh, not be null. Oh, I might have written something wrong. Oh, Hassan. Be null, not be null. Ah, there it is. There you go. I was like, what? What is this talking about? Okay. All right, here we go. All right, so this guy is passing from day one, right? The
Mhm.
second one is the one that's interesting. The second one is the one that's gonna go and say, so this is here, this here pass. This second one is the one that you're gonna have to make it, that you're gonna have to make it pass, Brian. So it's public void should render content. So this one is the interesting one because in here we're gonna go and say, okay, here's a given, here's a when, here's a then. And let's start with the state. So I expect my state to be content instead of loading. So that's going to be a different. This is going to be content. So that's one. And then the second one in here, we want to go and say what? I want to go and say that the service call itself, so this dot service mock dot setup. So that's the service. And the capabilities we have is at the beginning, at the first load, we want to do load first page, right?
No, I think the component. Oh, for testing, yes, maybe. I don't know.
Or
The
I think,
the virtualization component will be wanting to only call its particular interface that we
so you
set up
want to
for it.
basically call take skip on this
Yeah,
guy.
yeah.
Okay,
It's
service dot, is it retrieve next page, I think? Retrieve next page, something like
yeah,
that. There. Okay, and this guy is gonna be returning a bunch of things. So we need to create a random object generator, sort of. So I'm gonna go
yep.
up in here and say, okay, cool. I think I already did that in the service itself. So let me go steal that real quick. So this is a list, create random object, blah, that's perfect. I can do this and then create random iQueryable. I can steal all of this. My lordy lord. Okay, so this is this guy, and then I can go here and just slap that guy in here because I need the same capability technically. See, yeah, my keyboard keys are all messed up. This is fantastic. Okay, here we go. And let's just pull in some references. So here's all my references. Here's the list. Here's iQueryable. Okay, perfect. All right. Now I can go into this guy and say in here, here's random iQueryable.
Yeah, I'm not.
Queryable. Tell me.
Sorry, I don't know if it is retrieve next page. It's the one that took the index and the count. I can't remember what we called it.
Isn't it the take skip? Is the one that we did?
Yeah,
I thought it was
yeah,
next. Yeah.
yeah.
So when you load the page, you basically go and say, here's how much I want to jump. And it
Mm,
basically does the magic for us. We basically go and
mm.
say, let it.
Yeah, it basically when I with the POC, I just handed it the delegate, and the delegate gets hit straight. It calls the delegate the first time. So
Okay, we'll try it. We'll
no.
try it. So this is create random iQueryable. So it's this guy. And then I can go here and say iQueryable object retrieved data. So that's your random data. And I can go here and say, okay, here's my retrieved data. You can push that in there. So that works. And then here comes the rendering part. So I want to go up in here and say, okay, so this is private I rendered component from bVirtualization component like this. That's my guy, of course. And let's go and take this guy here using this guy here. So this is bVirtualization component. And that guy will be rendered component. And I'm gonna go and take this rendered component and basically go and say, okay, let me give this guy object just while we're at it because of the test. It would be interesting to find a way to randomize the type as well, but we'll see. So, okay, so this is rendered component. Come on, rendered component. And that will be render component. Now, I remember you said we need to pass in some parameters to this component, right? So if I go into the virtualization component itself, it wants a child content of some
Hmm.
kind, right? It wants a child content of some type. I'll hold off on that for a second because we're gonna need to create a child content um, a programmatically
Yep.
virtual.
The only other parameters I had on my POC were to do with the pointing it towards the endpoint. Now, in this case, we're going with
Data
the
source.
iQuery, yeah, the data
Yeah.
source. So it'll be a bit
Yes.
different. Yeah.
Yes. So there's that guy. So okay, I'm rendering that guy. Now that it rendered, it automatically already executed the uninitialize, like
Hmm.
the loading. So now my expectation is in here that this dot rendered component dot. So instance, and then what's in here that we can validate against. We never exposed the data source as a property, but not necessarily an input parameter on that component. So I'm gonna go up in here and say, hey, if I'm passing this to you, and we're gonna play around with that for a second, but for now, I'm gonna go up in here and say property, a iQueryable. This is just so we can know we're doing the right thing. So this is data source. It's not a parameter. It's not a parameter. It's nothing like that. And we can settle for just going and saying, did you actually execute the right thing when you loaded this component? We'll see about that in a second. So let me go back in here and let me go and say, hey, does the data source match? So this guy should be equivalent to, and I'm going to take that retrieve data in here and I'm going to say this is my expected data. We still didn't touch the actual scrolling part yet, but we'll come to that. So this is expected data that takes in from retrieve data. Here's expected data. This guy should be equivalent to that. So that's that one part. And then the other part, I'm just gonna go and verify that the call has happened. So this is a service in here. And this service, basically, I'm verifying that we said get next page, basically, or get retrieve next page. We're gonna change some of these assumptions very shortly. So times once. There you go. See, this time it went and actually called the namespace like a normal person. Okay, and then the last thing here is to go and say this mock verify no other calls. So what I basically verified here is that I'm basically saying when this loads, fill in this data source with the data, and then also at the same time, make sure that you actually called retrieve next page,
Hmm.
right? Um, let's see. Let's run this and see. This guy, of course, is going to fail because the call had never happened and all that. Oh, I also forgot to verify expected state and that the label and the exceptions are null. I still need to do that. So after all of this, I need to go here and say this dot rendered component dot instance dot label should be null, and also this dot rendered component dot instance the error message should be null also, but this one comes before this one. But before all of these, I actually need to go here and say rendered component dot instance dot state should be expected state, like this.
Which is content. Yeah.
Yes. So this is all good. Let's see here. This is all good. This is all good. Okay, I'm happy. I'm happy with this. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, so this guy should fail for all the good reasons in the world. Ah, did ask for JS interop. So this base component must be doing something funny. Okay, I'm gonna go do that then. So this dot services dot add options.
It interacts with the scroll bar. So
Yeah. So this one here is JS interop dot mode equal loose. Okay, I think this time this is gonna work. Let's go. I need a good failure.
mm.
Yeah. There's a good one and there's a bad one. So I'm gonna run this like this. So now what's the failure that I'm getting? I'm getting The enum for yeah, there you go. That's a good one. This basically said, hey, you told me you're gonna be content, but you
And it's
actually
not.
turned out to be something else. Okay. What do you think, Brian? Do you think you can make that one pass? What do you think?
I'll have a swing at
Okay.
it.
Here's a fail. Go to town. Make it rain. Do you guys say in Australia, let's go paint the city red? Do people say that stuff?
No, we don't say it, but I've heard the saying. Yes.
Okay.
Paint the town red, isn't it? It's from a really.
I
It's a
don't know.
reference from a really old Western movie, I believe.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at it right now. Oh, paint the town red. You're right. You you know, go out and enjoy oneself flamboyantly. I guess flamboyantly in our case would be to actually really just write up a good unit test. All right, go ahead, share your screen. Your turn.
Okay.
So it's users Brian L. Parker components dash virtualization.
I need to do a sync, hey?
Yes, sir. And share in. I'm waiting for you. Go ahead.
I'm not sharing. Ah,
Nah, not yet. I ain't.
that's
Although that
that's
sharing is
interesting.
caring, I'm surprised. Good, good.
Yeah.
There you are. All right, let's do it. I'll just sit here and sip my tea and see what you do.
Where are we?
So you are components. Whatever you see components, that's a good sign. Go to remotes because you didn't pull it in
Uh,
yet. And then
yeah.
just search for component. There it is. bVirtualization components right there.
Yep.
Third. Yep. Yep. Run the test. Find the failing one. Let's make it rain, Brian. Mm-hmm.
Yep. I just tried Control RT and I did something wrong.
I'll give you the focus. Go for it. Yep.
So, where's the test explorer?
Mm.
Okie dokie.
All right.
So, I guess we'll need a override for uninitialized.
Yes. Wait, Brian, are you getting the right stuff? This should have I don't think you're in the right place. You're in base. Careful. You're in base.
Uh,
You're in the wrong realm. Mm.
I am too.
Uh, uh,
So here I shall try.
yes, sir. Yep. We might need to provide both interfaces for uninitialized async and uninitialized at some point. We'll see how that one pans out. That'll be interesting.
Mm, yep. Do you want me to just do it in async?
No. Keep going. You're fine. We don't need it,
Mm-hmm.
so
Yep. So what was the first one? Content.
yeah.
So
Usually I leave the content to be the last thing that would
yeah,
happen.
yeah, I agree. So I'm going to put it in here right at the bottom. State was it? Where did we put it? This dot. So do we want to cover the label as well?
No, the label also we're gonna leave it as is because we only need that label when we have an error. All you have to do now is to basically hook up the call for get next page in there, basically, which makes me wonder, Brian, that we need to expose the index and the quantity. We have to, because if we don't, we're not giving the people the control they need to be able to. So I might need to change my test a little bit, right?
What I'm thinking,
Go
I
ahead.
never had to do that. And in fact, in my component, I could actually make this static
Mhm.
because everything, its request has been controlled by this delegate, and this delegate, its request is coming from the virtualization component.
Okay,
So the index and the quantity is actually coming from it.
right. So okay, okay, I agree. We need to call. Go ahead.
No.
Mhm. We need to call the service now to be able to
Yeah,
go and say the we need to basically call retrieve next page on the service
yeah,
on
yes.
initialization. So this is why I was saying okay, entertain this idea. If you go right
No,
now, go ahead.
what I'm saying is when this gets initialized, this whole component gets initialized. The first thing
Hmm.
the first thing this component will do is make a request, and that'll be the request for the first page.
Ah, okay.
You see
Well,
my
how are you gonna execute that through the uninitialized then?
well, do I have to execute it, or do I just test to make sure that this
Yeah,
component is
yeah.
wired up properly, and then has had made a call to that?
If this pattern is gonna make it call the service, then so be it. Let's see. I'll sit and watch. Let's see what you're gonna do. Yep.
Sorry, I was just. Yeah. Um,
Hmm.
Sorry, I've lost. A friend just disturbed me.
No, no, no worries, no worries. Let me repeat that. Let me repeat that.
Why is
If
that?
you, by the way, in your on the right side in Windows, you can say silent mode, so that will kind of
Yeah,
quietens the
yeah.
notifications. This is normally what I do in my yep. If you see this
Focus
focus as
assist.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
I think so. Yep. 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 There you go.
yeah.
Yep.
I
That'll
normally have I normally have my phone turned off, and none of them come through. So I don't know why.
you have a big fan base. That's the problem. So, we're gonna have to kind of keep them quiet a little bit.
I've
All
been
right,
telling my close friends, don't disturb me between 11 and 12.
Okay, what happened to the freeze? Yeah, there you go. It went away. Okay, perfect. So the idea here is that we want to call. I'll let you run with your idea first, because I think you're up to something good. But I think that we need to. I think that we need to make two calls. But I'll let you try first. Go ahead, go for it. I'm watching.
my mouse is doing crazy stuff at the moment too. So
Yay, we're all been hacked. We're
yeah.
all been hacked. Go ahead.
So what? So this gets called, and this we need to pass this call to the service.
Yep.
Yeah, which is this.
Unless the assumption in the test is wrong, which I highly doubt. I'll let you move forward with it and we'll see.
So which one? See this one. Oh,
Is it get page size or retrieve next page?
I think it's actually load first page because we didn't.
Okay, okay, sounds good.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm
is
I'm
it?
watching.
I'm sorry. I'm just the one that took two parameters. Start at and page size. That one. Yeah.
Okay.
So that should be. Yeah. So it should be just index.
Okay.
Wow. What's going on? Yeah. And that should be just simply return.
Okay.
Yeah. Huh. Okay. So that needs to be pushed into
Okay.
data equals. Yeah. Why? Oh,
Mm.
that's
I
good.
don't. Do you have to make it stat? Yeah. You have
No,
to make it stat.
no, I didn't. I was just saying. I left that there when I
You're
was
just
talking to
making
you.
a. Yeah. You're making a point.
Yeah.
Yep. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just cast them. What's happening? Yeah, oh, I did it the wrong one.
So is it supposed to be a U? Yeah. There you go. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Now, how do I get the quantity? This is the question I was asking you from an iQueryable.
Mm.
So we just do a count. Yeah.
I guess we could just do a count. Yeah.
Yeah. What's happening here?
So if you're gonna go with load first page, you know what I think, Brian? I think we need to go back to the service and implement get next page with index and quantity because the component is already doing that work for us. Because
Yeah.
load first page is not gonna do the trick.
Uh,
It
I think it
will
will,
actually, but it's
but it's
not.
bad name. A
Yeah,
good
it's a
name. It's
bad
not a
name.
good.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Let,
Yeah.
let's let's move on with this. Let's move on with load first page.
Yeah. And we'll refactor the name. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So total count.
But doesn't that mean that we still have to expose parameters for index and quantity? I'm sorry. Shutting up now. I'll let you do your thing. Yep, yep.
Yeah, yeah. So that should work.
Okay. That means I need to modify my test a little bit. So can you go back to the test and then instead of saying retrieve next page, you're just gonna need to change it to say something to the effect of it's in views. So expand views at the very bottom.
Yep.
Views and then components, bVirtualization, and then go to the render piece. So this is this part where I did a mock-up of a so line 53,
Mm-hmm.
you can just replace that with instead of retrieve next page, you can retrieve that with load first page.
Yep.
And
And on there.
uh, in that load in that load first page, it'll basically give you the kind of capability to you could say it is any int for now.
So how do you
Yeah, if you just type it, IT, I capital,
yeah,
and then dot
yeah,
is.
yeah. Any and then int. Is that right? Yeah. No, you int. Was it? Yeah. No?
Just waiting.
I think you int here, isn't that right? Yeah, like this. Yeah, that's int. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. So let's see here. So this is this part. Okay, and also in the verify piece. Yep. Yep. That
Mm-hmm.
retrieve next page. Yep. Yeah, I think we found our good balance there. We just need to rename that function name and we should be just fine. I'll take that as a code rub. No problem. Go for it.
So again, it's the same. It.
Yeah, yep, it
Uh,
is any int. We're gonna have to be a little bit more specific about that later, maybe tomorrow.
yep. Mhm.
When we go and say, but I don't want to test what the actual virtualization component behind the scene is doing. I don't care about
No,
that. Yeah.
we just want to make sure it's doing the calls. Yeah.
Yep, I just want to know that it's making the call. That's all I care about.
Yep. So what's next? We're verifying that. We got the label. We got what about?
Hmm.
Do we need to verify the content? The render fragment? No, we're not. What? Where did it go? Where did the razor go? I lost.
Do you have to do Control Z or something? What happened? What on earth is going on?
I'm going to close all my tabs.
Close all me tabs. There
Here we
you
go.
are. I don't know what's happening. Okay, let's run the test and see what happens. It should do. Is it? We'll see. I'm very interested to see. I don't think it will, but we'll see. Yeah.
Whoops.
So what's the error? The error says, yeah. Did you switch the state to say content?
I did. It was the first thing I did at the
Oh, oh,
bottom.
oh, oh, by the way, your stuff worked. You just didn't assign the data source in there. And quite frankly, we don't care. So don't even remove the data source validation, actually. Yeah, remove that data source validation. We don't care. So all the way at the bottom where it says data source, just remove that validation from there. That's line
Yeah.
64. 64.
Yep.
Not all, yeah, not all the way at the bottom. I have this horrible habit of telling people all the way at the bottom when it's just literally in the middle of the page. I don't know why I do that. I'm genuinely sorry. Let's go. Let's do it. Did it actually make the call? That's the one I'm actually waiting for. Look, it didn't make any calls. So that means it didn't really invoke anything. This is why I'm thinking and help me here if I'm wrong. What I'm thinking is that unload the first hit. It has to actually load first page.
Yeah. I'm actually thinking it won't know anything about the page until it renders. So it's probably not knowing anything to make the first request until after first render.
Exactly. And this is why I'm saying if I give this thing a data source and we pass this data source all the way down to load just the first page, and then from there, we could go and say, okay, you loaded the first page. You already know what's your index and what's your count. Go ahead from there and start kind of navigating. Let's pick that up again tomorrow. We're at the
Yep.
hour. But
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you were going to say something. Any
Yeah.
remark?
My only thought is if we load the data first, how do we pass that to the component? Because the component's not going to want that.
Huh. So let me
We really need to let the component make the initial request.
instead of us giving it the
Mm,
first
mm,
hit,
mm.
and but by component you mean not the
In the base,
base in the
I mean
base.
yeah, the base, yeah, the component we're wrapping needs to make that first request.
How are you gonna do that? We're gonna need to expose an API to trigger it somehow.
Mm.
Let's think about it tomorrow.
Yep.
Let's go
No
back to
worries.
the blackboard tomorrow and talk about it. Hey, as usual, Brian, thank you so very much. I've been receiving a lot of feedback from people telling me how great, your insight is and the stuff that you're doing here in this project is such a great thing. I'm very happy to do this work with you. And thanks to the people that have been following us. I just got a guy leaving a comment on the channel says, "I've been following you guys from the beginning." I'm watching you. I was like, okay, great. I hope you're learning something out of this. This is what real engineering is like. We just go back and forth. More important than anything, a lot of people reach out to me and said, oh man, you're a senior engineer. You don't even need to, Google anything. Everything just comes straight from your head on the keyboard to the here you go. Here's real life engineering for us. We go back and forth and think about ideas. I wish, if Brian was here with me in this room right now, there would be a whiteboard in the back here, and we would be going back and forth on that whiteboard, because that's how you're actually thinking about engineering something worthy of putting your name on it. This is something that you put your name on and said, hey, at the end of the day, I actually built something that I can be proud of, something that can withstand time as well, enterprise level. Guys, you're watching us right now on this video. We Brian and I are gonna stress test this thing. We're gonna throw at it some, 50 million record, and see how it's gonna handle it and how it's gonna take care of it and all that kind of stuff. I know we're gonna play a little bit with optimization. We might play with optimization a little bit, Brian. We might try to think about of certain ways. Technically, we're just letting whatever data source you have, determine what your latency is going to be and what your execution time is going to be. But we're also going to engage a little bit just to make our product, beautiful and useful and simple. I want a grandma in Nebraska to be able to pull in that code and be able to run it, even though she never wrote code in her
And
life.
it's doing some very, very advanced stuff in the background, and it's all hidden
Yes.
away. I mean,
Yes. I'm just abstracting away all that junk. Just pull it in, put your stuff in, and run. And if you want to know how it works, watch these
here it is.
sessions. All right. As usual, thank you all for watching. I'll see you tomorrow in another video. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate you, sir.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.